Alright, hey guys, today I'm going to bring you something fairly simple. It's a way to rapidly show your assets in like this sort of asset render preview just using geometry nodes. In this case, I just have 4 frames showing 4 different items rapidly changing between frame 1 through 4, and in this case all I would need to do is hit render animation. And if I have it on the PNG setting, then it will just dump 4 PNGs of all my assets, and I don't have to make an individual render for every single asset. All I just need to do is just render the animation. And in this case, I have them all set on their own collections, with just the switch collection with being this cube with a simple setup that you just loop a few times over. I know it looks a little bit messy, but that's because I'm a messy person, and but it's not that complicated, and we're gonna get started on how you can create something like this whenever you need to render multiple images of your assets, whether it be for a project or anything like that. So in that case, let's get started. All right, continuing on that last note, recently I did get commissioned per se to create some system like this for someone, and I decided to make a tutorial out of it to show you guys how to do it. So first thing we are going to need is our assets. So let's use once again the Sketchfab add-on. I look for statue, and to keep it light, I like to keep up to 10K so that I don't get too many polygons. We're going to bring in the first statue. In this case, we're only maybe going to do 3 statues in total. Nothing too complicated. Alright, with our objects now imported, we have to set them all into their own collection. So let's do that. Just set them into their own collections. Nothing too complicated. Obviously, this is just importing, so like if you were to append it from another file or import it on FBX or an OBJ, it'll be the same process. You need to set them into their own collections in order to stay organized. Now these are my assets. I'm going to create a new collection. Call this the switch, which is where our cube will be situated. So let's bring that in, and then we can deactivate the other ones. At this moment, you will want to like have them orientated the way you want. So here we have them all facing the same way now. Okay, now with our cube, we are going to go into geometry nodes, create a new system. I'm going to rename it to switch, and we're going to get rid of that cube and bring in our first collection, which is the head, and plug that into the output. We'll get our head back, and now we are going to need a switch node. Set that into false, and we are going to want to bring in our timeline information, which is just input scene time using the frames plug. We are going to need to set this into from a float value to a Boolean value. So we will need a compare node. Set the compare node to not equal and set it to integer, since it's going to count frame 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, not any in-between numbers. Set the frame into the first, and then this is going to say, is frame 1 equal to 0? It's going to be false, which will make it our head. And you'll see it'll switch out. And then we are going to bring in our snake collection, set this into true, and if we move one to the side, yeah, we have to set it to greater than. My bad. I'm a bit murky. Work has been hard. But yeah, set it to greater than actually, and keep the B at 1. And that will basically say, is frame 1 greater than 1? No. But once we get to frame 2, yes, it's true. It switches it to the snake. And then we add another switch node into the snake value, bring in our statue, plug that into true, and then duplicate our compare node, set that in there, and now we up b by 1 and plug in our frame time, and now we have our third setup. And you will continue this process of duplicating and adding another frame for as many assets as you want. Uh, Now, since we only have three, we only really need these. So if we just set that down to 3 frames, we now see we switch between all three uh, assets. We create our scene around that. And we can see it switches out between. So once we're done with that, all we would need to do is set up our output file location to be where we want. Obviously, if you're going to use just a simple output, nothing, no fancying, no compositing, you could just use this. But if you are going to composite stuff, you would go to the compositing page and set up your compositing nodes here, and then set it out to render to a PNG. But in this case, just your simple setting up where your file location is through here is simple. Render animation, and it'll render all 3 frames as PNGs, and you will get 3 different rendered PNGs, which I'm probably showing on screen right now. And that's really it. There's nothing else complicated to it. It's just importing collections and switching between them based on the frame number, and just adding more layers to it as you bring in more assets. This just ultimately saves you a bit more time and not having to render each image on its own or animating it by hand in keyframes. It's just a simple setup. Anyways, I hope this has been useful to you. I know it's a bit short of a tutorial, but I think it's still something good for people to learn. So hope you enjoyed, and see you all later.